SAP R3. Now, what is SAP R3? R is for real time, 3 is 3-tier architecture. Okay. What is this 3-tier architecture? The top tier is presentation server. The middle layer is called application server, and the third is database. This is how SAP is made. Okay. So when we talk about this, every server will have these 3 layers, and we have dev, quality, and production. These are the landscapes, 3 major landscapes. Dev can have its own variations, like dev for development, testing, configuration only, which is called golden client, okay, sandbox, and so on. Quality has QS, it's called, it will have quality will have testing, UAT, and what else? Testing and UAT and development for ABAP, because any code coming from dev will come from development instance of dev, and then it will land into development instance of QS. Then production. Production has only one instance, that is live, and it will have one will be pre-PRD, which is pre-production, and the other one will be PRD itself, production. Okay. So pre-PRD is for reconciliation of balances, um, material list, master data, okay, and financial balances, okay, financial balances, okay. So when you speak of presentation layer, it is basically for the end user, while application layer is for development, functional configuration, okay, and database is of course not accessible, but only accessible by ABAP basis consultants only, okay. And when we talk about presentation layer, it is run by program called SAP GUI.exe. It is mainly for entering and displaying data, okay, and it gets input and sends to application layer, okay. For example, if we have a look at it, SC11 MARA display. So this is general material data table. It has these many fields, and what are the fields? We have material number, and of course many industry sector, material type, material group, and these are basically the controls that we get. So shift F5 development object, shift Shift F5. Let's see enhanced options. Okay. Over here, we have some more controls basically, which are again in the access of the ABAP consultants. Okay. So the table is, of course, at the discretion of the ABAP developer. Okay. Now, if we have to look at and understand how SAP is actually functioning, we should have some understanding of how the layers basically work. For that, this is the layout how SAP is basically built. The application layer, we have a set of work processes, and a dispatcher is, of course, supervising the input that it is getting from the presentation layer, and it is basically distributed across number of work processes that computes everything for the request that is generated from the presentation layer. So there are work processes categories like dialog request, update, background, spool, message, gateway. We'll discuss this. So the ABAP dispatcher, of course, it sits in the middle and it has a heavy responsibility. Okay. And dialog basically it's like getting an input to run a transaction, and it's a dialog. It produces, let's say, it displays a document, okay, like a billing document. Background. Now, in background, what do we mean by background? There are some requests that are coming in on monthly basis, like calculation of withholding tax, okay, and recurring entries, which is again happening from FI side, or reconciliation, okay, reconciliation between vendor, material, and purchase order. If there are many documents like that that have that those documents have to be run in the background, because so that the front end is basically not interrupted. Lock management, again, this is if you want to lock tables from accessing or from being changed at month end when the period is getting changed. That is again a part of what ABAP does. Now, we have Internet Communication Manager. Again, ABAP dispatcher has to communicate through the cloud, internet cloud, or through gateway, through VPNs, okay, or through messaging server with third-party applications. So messaging server handles communication between distributed dispatchers, which enables scalability of several parallel application servers. Gateway users enables communication between SAP systems and third-party systems. Okay, so there is one gateway per dispatcher. Internet communication enables communication with SAP and HTTP, the cloud. So user context, basically, what is user context? User context is that if I'm working on SAP, my preferences, my language, my number preferences, my day preferences will be allocated with a memory, okay, as per the user preferences. It holds information needed by the system about the user, like user current settings, authorizations, okay, and the program user is running. So if you go into much more detail, we have this kind of a layout where work process in itself is computing the logic, where it has an interpreter, ABAP interpreter, and it's communicating with the database. And of course, there is a line of services a dispatcher has to handle along with the ABAP dispatcher, where it is handling the requests. So database layer, there is a central database, okay, where every transaction, data set, tables, fields are stored. So it also has configuration data as well, okay. Um, it also has administration data, customizing settings, ABAP source code, and everything. Because customizing configuration, ABAP, it is all coming through the package that we did last time in the program, okay. Now, this is the presentation layer where it sends requests to the dispatcher, and the dispatcher has work process working for various categories like dialogue, like background, like gateway, okay, and that is again being accessed through the dispatcher with the database, and that's how your SAP is basically functioning, operating, and handling the request. Buffer actually speeds up processing of user request. Data that is often read but seldom changed, like customizing data, currencies, company codes, these are not changed, but they are held and kept as frequently as the same. So that is stored in the buffer. It can be kept as a copy of database content in the shared memory of the application server. And this is again a much more native layout where what framework is being used, native SQL, okay? And ABAP interpreter can also directly access the database. And these are the tables and fields, and it can access it. And the data, database data can be pulled into the interpreter. Or normally what it'll do, it will go through the database interface where it will be communicating through the framework of native SQL. Okay. So ABAP programs, basically, they have a fundamental task to process data. Okay. And these actually receive inputs from presentation layer and work with the data in the database layer. Okay. Now, let me just write a program. Okay. Eight ZT66 19 March. Success. Executable, save, local object. Okay. Parameters P. Partner. Mat. Okay. Check. Activate. Processing. Execute. Okay. Now what it is doing, basically, it is pulling all the details from the material that we have actually selected over here. It is selecting 100 as client. Where is the client? This is the client, 100. A2RM02 is the material number, and this is the material detail. So it's pulling all the details. So how is it pulling all the details? Because we have already given it that select single record, single, but all. Star means all that is relevant to the search we have parameter we have actually input. So we input P Matner with the material number, and it pulled all the data and it writes MACT. What is WA MACT? WA MACT is work area. MACT, what is MACT? Let's see that. SC11 MAKT. What is MAKT? Display. It is material description. And what fields do we have? Material number, which is Matner, language keys, pras, description, uppercase descriptions. Okay. Now, some fields are mandatory to be filled, initialized, not zero. It cannot be empty. Initially, it has to be, must be filled in this table. Okay. I hope you're getting the point over here. Yeah. Got it? Okay. Let's go to SC93, transaction code VF02. Okay. Over here, we have screens. I've already actually shown you this. And we have support for, and this is basically where we are talking about gateway, internet communication manager. Okay. And third one was gateway, internet communication manager, and third one, forgot, message server. Okay. So basically, the screens are basically using these protocols. Okay. So that's it. That's it for today. That was our lecture.